So, I am Yashmil Jan Eben Danilio, and now I will discuss to you the module 3, the module of the month of May. So, now let's move to the lesson 3. So, these are my objectives of my report. So, the study on the institutional agencies in the Philippines, Code of Kalantiaw, Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Prison, and Penal Farm, Iwahig Penal Colony, Correctional Institute for Women, New Bilibid Prison, Davao Penal Colony, Sablayan Penal Farm, later Regional Prison, Provincial Jail System, and Public Attorney's Office or PAO. So, now let's move to the institutional agencies of the Philippines. So here is the concise history of the Bureau of Corrections. So corrections in the Philippines started during on the pre-colonial times. So in the pre-colonial times, the way how they treat offenders before was so harsh. So this was being started during pre-colonial times. So it was, however, regionalized on individual community basis. It was only during the Spanish regime when the organized corrective service was made operational. So, the Bureau of Correction was created by an act of legislature in September 1953. The foundation was based on a report by retired Army Major Jacob L. Devers as his special committee to investigate prison problems. Committee was convened shortly after riots in Pittsburgh and Rockview in early 1953. So, when the Americans took over in 1990s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Organization Act of 1905, Act number 1407, November 1, 1905. So, the main penitentiary was Old Bilibid Prison in Oroquita Street, Manila. So, this is the main penitentiary. So, ang main penitentiary di ay is that sa mga wala kabalo, this was called an Old Bilibid Prison. So, Old Bilibid Prison was found in the Oroquitam Street in the Manila City, Luzon. So, this was established in 1847 pursuant to Section 1708 of the Revised Administrative Code. It was formally opened by a royal decree in 1865, about 4 years later, on August 21, 1869, the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City was established to confine prisoners opposed to the Spanish rule. So, when the Americans took over in 1990s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905, Act number 1407 dated on November 1, 1905 as an agency under the Department of Commerce and Police. So, the Bureau of Prisons DI is na-create siya under sa Reorganization Act number 1407. So this was mandated on November 1, 1905. So this was under sa um, sa Department of Commerce and Police. So it was also paved the way of reestablished in San Ramon Prison in 1907. So during the Spanish American War, ilan na siyang giguba. So they were kaning kanang establishment or ang San Ramon Prison is gidestroy siya during sa Spanish American War. So, prisoners had to contend with the dilapidated facilities within the cramped area. So, before the reconstruction of San Ramon Prison, the Americans established in 1904 the Luhit Penal Settlement, now Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm. So, before the reconstruct ang San Ramon Prison, the American established ang mga American nakig-establish siya in late 1904. So the Luhit Penal Settlement, now Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm. So ang Luhit Penal Settlement gilisda na siya og Iwahig Prison og Penal Farm. So ako na siya padayon. So na further discussions ani later. So On a vast reservation of 28,072 hectares, it would reach aggregate total land area of 40,000 hectares in late 1950s. It was located on the westernmost of the archipelago and far from within the town of confined Ero- ero- incorrigibles who of the government had found little hope of rehabilitation. So, the area was expanded to 41,007 hectares by virtue of Executive Number 67 issued by Governor Newton Gilbert on October 15, 1912. So, other penal colonies were established during the American regime. So, on November 27, 1929, the Correctional Institute for Women, or CIW, was created under an Act number 3579, while Davao Colony in southern Mindanao was opened in 1932 under Act of 3732. So, what is the main purpose of the CIW, or the Correctional Institution for Women? So, ang CIW is that they are also an offender woman. So, gilahi ni siya nga usa ka facility sa mga men because nani sila for some purposes kanang like if ang babae gisagol ra sa usa ka lalaki, so there's a tendency inside sa prison ma-rape jud ang babae. So another na po population, so ang population magka-grows old magka-daghan ang population sa usa ka prison. So munang gilahi nila ang mga women nga na sila confinement for women para dili nasagol sa mga men offenders na sa inside sa prison. So, the CIW was funded to provide separate facilities for women offenders and to cater their gender difference. So, yes, what I mentioned ganihan na ang mga women gi-separate sila og laing facility para makater ang ilang mga gender differences nga which is the men and women. So to date, it's the long women's prison in the country. So owing to the increasing number of committals to the old Bilibid prison in Manila, the new Bilibid prison was established in 1935 in the southern suburb of Muntinlupa, Rizal. So yeah, so ang old Bilibid prison is that nag-increasing na ang mga tao nga nag-commit of crime. So ang old Bilibid prison is that crowded na kayo, daghan na kayong mga uh, offenders inside sa jail. So ilang ginabuhat is that nagama sila bagong establishment which called is the New Bilibid Prison. So na-establish ni siya year 1935 in the Muntinlupa, Rizal. So, the old prison was transformed into a receiving center and a storage of facility from farm coming produce coming from the colonies. So, ang old Bilibid prison is that ilan ang gigama o usa ka storage facility para sa farm kanang para sa naay mga other colonies nga maabot nga mga farm like mga palay, dito nila i-store ang ilang mga ani sa farm. So dito niya siya ang center of kanang establishment nga naay mga kanang mga tanom or mga gulay ba na nato, mga gulay ba, mga pagkaon na dito gi-store sa old Bilibid prison. So it is presently abandoned under the jurisdiction of the Public Estates Authority. So ang nakapait lang niya kay i-abandon na siya sa under sa jurisdiction of the Public States Authority, but I don't have any idea ano siyang i-abandon. So the prisoners have to build their basic housing areas using materials available in the prison reservation. So ang prisoners maningkamot sila nga makabuild sila sa ilang basic need which is one kaning basic housing. So para sila makasurvive inside ana nga penitentiary diha, ang mga prisoners kay gagama po na sila og housing para pod kanang naa sila matulugan kanang if ever maulanan sila naa sila matulgan, but ilang pagpaningkamot nga makagama sila, makatukod sila balay which use kanang gamit lag materials inside lang sa prison. Kung mamulong ra na sila mga materials ito mga kahoy ba para lang makabuild sila og usa ka house. So, after the American regime, two more penal institutes were established. So, paghuman sa American regime, naay duha ka buok penal institutions nga ginama or established. So, these were Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro under the Proclamation Number 72 issued on September 26, 1954 and later Regional Prison under the Proclamation Number issued 1101 issued on January 16, 1972. So, ang duha ka institutions nga gigama is that ang Sablayan Prison ug Penal Farm sa Occidental Mindoro. Yeah. So, the Bureau of Prisons was renamed Bureau of Corrections. So, sa una gitawag na siya nga Bureau of Prisons, but karon kanang hangtod karon nga nana nato dire naandan gitawag na siya sa present of Bureau of Corrections. So, under the new Administrative Code of 1987 issued on November 23, 1987 and the Proclamation number of 495 of the President. It is one of the attached agencies under the supervision and control of the Department of Justice. So, under sa Bureau of Corrections, ang nag-supervise ana is that ang DOJ or which called nato na Department of Justice. So now, let's move on to the Code of the Kalantiaw. So, first, nasa Article 1. So, in the Article 1, you shall not kill, neither shall you steal, neither you shall do harm to an age, lest and endure the damage of death. All those who infringe in this order shall be condemned to death by being thrown in the river or in a boiling water. So this means that we should we should not kill. So like muratag nagsuhid ani sa mga 10 commandments. So naigo diri ang you shall not kill, you shall not steal, then you should not do harm sa mga tao, sa mga idaran, and then dili ka mobuhat og mga daotan nga ikadaot sa tao nga mga cause of death. So in this article kanang itong gipakita na dapat magtinarong sa tuang palibot kanang dili ta dapat mobuhat aning klase nga butang kay we should kanang basing ma-condemn to death and being thrown in river or boiling water. So this means that kanang if mabuhat nato ning klase nga panghitabo, so na tendency na mag-suffer pud ta tuhod mapriso pa ta, maksyon pud pa ta. So na mo na akong ka-explain. So let's move to the Article 2. You shall obey, let all the debts with the headman be met punctually. He who does not obey shall receive for the first time 100 lashes. The debt is large, he shall be condemned to thrust his hand in a boiling water thrice. For the second time, he shall be beaten to death. So Article 3. Obey you. Let no one have women that very young and nor be can support, nor be given to excessive lust. He who does not comply with them, obey and observe this order shall be condemned to swim for 3 hours for the first time and for the second time to be beaten to death with sharp thorns. Article 4. Observe and obey. Let no one disturb the quiet of the graves when passing by the caves and trees where they are. Give respect to them. He who does not observe shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. Article 5. You shall obey. He who exchanges for food, let it be always done in accordance with his word. He who does not comply shall be beaten for 1 hour. He who repeats the offense shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. Article 6. You shall be obliged to reverse sites that are held in respect, such as those of trees of recognized birth and other sites. He who fails to comply shall pay with month's work in gold or in honey. Article 7. This shall put to death he who kills trees or venerable appearance, who shoot arrows and knight an old man and woman. He who enters the houses and headman without permission, who kills a shark or a trick cayman. Article 8. Slavery or for a dome. A certain period of time shall be suffered by those who steal away of women and headmen, by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite and headman, by him who burns the fields of another. Article 9. All this shall be beaten for 2 days, who sing while traveling by night, kill the manaul, tear the documents belonging to the headman, are malicious liars, or who mock the head. Article 10. In the creed of obligation, the every mother teach secretly their daughters' mothers pertaining the laws of prepare them or them for Romanhood. Let not men be cruel nor punish their women when they catch them in act of adultery. Whoever shall disobey shall be killed or being cut pieces thrown by the caimans. Article 11. This shall be borne by their strength of cunning their mouth, and escape punishment or have killed young boys or others steal away the woman of the elders. Article 12. This shall be thrown. All who interfere with the superiors or of these owners or masters, all those who abuse themselves through their lust, those who destroy their anitos or idols by breaking them, throwing them down. Article 13. All these shall be exposed to ants for half a day. Kill black cats during a new moon, or steal anything from the chips or arrogance, however small the object may be. They shall, Article 14, they shall make slave for life, who have beautiful daughters, and deny them with the sons of chiefs, and with bad faith hide them away. Article 15, concerning beliefs and superstitions, they shall be beaten who eat the deceased flesh of beasts which they hold in respect, or the herb which they consider good, who would kill the young and manaol for white monkey. So, Article 11. The finger shall be cut off, all of these who break idols of wood and clay in their alagangs and temples, of those who destroy the daggers of Tagalons or break the drinking jars of the latter. Article 17. These shall be killed, who profane sites where idols are kept, and sites where being buried and scared things of their diwatas and headmen. He who performs his necessities in those places shall be burned. Article 18. Those who do not cause the rules to be obeyed, if they are headmen, they shall be put to death, being stoned by and crushed. If they are arrogants, and shall be placed in rivers and eater sharks and caimans. Now let's move on to the 7 institutional corrections of the Philippines. So now, this is the new Bilibid Prison or NBP. So it was found in the Muntinlupa, Metro Manila, and it is the main insular of the penitentiary designed to house the prison population of the Philippines. So the new Bilibid Prison Manila, Ajukalimut, it was found in Metro Manila in Muntinlupa. So this is the picture of the Bureau of Corrections or new in the new Bilibid Prison. So bago kayo ang facility. So ato siyang ma-describe og well kanang tsada iyahang pagkagama sa facility, and then naa siya guard I think sa gawas or police ba na siya nga nagbantay. Ah. So, it is maintained by Bureau of Corrections or BUCOR under the Department of Justice. So, ga-maintain ni siya kanang naa siya mayong pagtagad ang Bureau of Corrections under sa BUCOR or og sa DOJ. So, as of May 2018, the NBP House of 26,877 convicted criminals. So as of 2018, the total convicted criminals was 26,877. So daghan jud siya mga criminal. So in 1940, prisoners were transformed to the NBP from the old Bilibid prison, also known as Cárcel y Presidio or Correctional, Spanish for Correctional Jail and Military Prison in Manila. The remnants of the old facility was used by the City of Manila and its detention center known today as Manila City Jail. So the penitentiary had an initial land area of 551 hectares. So ang penitentiary house is like kanang kuan ra ni siya kanang the total land area is that 551 hectares. So, but 104 hectares were transferred to a housing project of the Department of Justice. So, ang 260 hectares kuha na siya para magama og housing area sulod sa Department of Justice. So, additional land of the National NBP reservation is used for a Bureau of Corrections headquarters. So, additional land of the NBP reservation is used for Bureau of Corrections headquarters. So, the government of the Philippines plans to create a regional prison in Nueva Ecija in public-private partnership. So, ang government sa Philippines is that nagplano siya nga mugama o regional prison sa Nueva Ecija, which is kanang all over pila ka region sa Philippines, is that na dito i-confine ang mga convicted criminals. So I think if ilan ning ma-accommodate or ilan ning mabuhat is that dako jud kayo ang or dako kay nagtabang sa mga ubang mga prisons nga crowded kay para mabahin ang mga convicted criminals ma-transfer siya aning regional prison. So the old Bilibid prison, they known as Cárcel y Presidio, Correctional, Spanish Correction Jail, military prison, occupied a rectangular place of land that was part of the Manay-Halique state of heart of Manila. So the old ang old prison or gidin or ang karaan nga sinultian ani is that Spanish din siya nga istoryahan, which is the Cárcel y Presidio or the old Bilibid prison. So isa na siya ka rectangular piece of land, rectangle na siya. So isa na siya ka part sa Manila nga gibuild para dito i-confine ang mga prisoners or na-convict of criminal act. So the old prison was established by the Spanish colonial government on June 25, 1865 via royal decree. This divided into sections: the Cárcel, which could accommodate 600 inmates, and the Presidio could hold 557 prisoners. So the old prison during the Spanish colonial government, i-divide ni siya og duha ka section. So mo ni siya ang establishment, gi-divide siya, murag silbi, gibahin siya para ang mga inmates dili mag-crowd. So I don't know ano ni siya nga lahi. But for me, para sa dili kayo crowded ang usa ka establishment. So San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm. So mo din ni siya ang San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm. So mo ni siya ang sample picture. So This was established on August 21, 1869 sa Zamboanga City. So, i-establish niya sa Mindanao. So, is established to confine Muslim rebels and recalcitrant political prisoners opposed to the Spanish rule. So, Zamboanga manggod sa Mindanao, we all know that daghan kay ditong mga Muslims. So, gigaman ni siyang establishment for the women's rebels o sa mga recalcitrant political prisoners. So, it faced the Hulu Sea and had Spanish-inspired dormitories as was originally set on 1,414 hectares Koning Estate. So, considered the oldest penal facility in the country, prisoners in San Ramon were required to do agricultural work. So, considered nga ang oldest penal facility sa country is that ang San Ramon prison. So, ang mga prisoners dito gi-required gud sila nga modo sa mga agricultural work, which is ang mga prisoners ba is that na sila pangabuhat nga magmananom sila mga tanom, mga ulotanon, magama silang farm. So, for example, magtanom silang mga palay, magtanom ba silang mais, sa panadiha mananom og prutas. So, gi-require ko na sila, gina-require sila nga mubuhat og mga agricultural nga mga work. So, established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco for those patron Saint, the prison was named after. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. So, pag-abot ni Governor General Ramon Blanco, kanang na sila isa ka facility nga mga political nga mga tao or mga tao nga commit og political act. So, diri na sila gina-confine sa usa ka prisuhan. So, the history. So, during the Spanish-American War in 1899, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and buildings destroyed. So, in 1907, the American administration established the prison farm. In 1912, General John Pershing, the chief executive of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, classified the institutional and prison and penal colony and therein confined people sentenced by courts under the jurisdiction. So, under Pershing's supervision, several buildings with a capacity of 600 prisoners were constructed. So, under sa Pershing supervision, several building dito capacity sa several dito nga buildings nag-hold og capacity sa 600 prisoners. So, dako-dako ni siya nga confinement but not good nga grabe ka dako. Kay ang na-hold is that 600 prisoners but tabangod gyapon siya. So, after several years, the colony became practically self-supporting with 75,000 coconut trees which were planted to the beginning of Pershing's administration, contributing to the colony's self-sufficiency. Aside from coconut, rice, corn, papaya, and other were cultivated. So, nananong lagi sila dito. So, which is na dito 75,000 coconut trees. So, ang mga criminal nga mga tao or mga offender bisan tuod og na sila dito sa prisuhan but kung ilagong gina-strict or gipinabuhat og mga agricultural work so makapa-benefit pa nun siya to ang palibot. So example ani is that kaning 75,000 coconut trees. So if muna sila managhan, muna sila manubo tanan so paling daghan ang coconut trees. Napo diri mga farm. So mananong ba sila coconut, no? Na rice, na corn, papaya, and other mga gi-cultivate nila para napod sila mabuhat sulod sa prisuhan. That. So facilities and recreation. So the San Ramon Penal Farm prisoners were being asked to work in farms. So the San Ramon Prison Farm ang mga prisoners kay task nila o buhat o mag-work sila sa farm, pananom, on what I've been mentioned earlier. So they also have their own school. Homenan, napuday sila kaugaling eskwelahan. All who can't read and write are required to attend school. They encourage to create a lot of handicrafts which is being sold in handicraft center. So, gitudluan po din ni sila og mga handicrafts kanang mga painting, mga unsa pa na diha, mga canvas man ilang ipanggama unsa na diha. Kanang tudluan sila na sila school for that para sa mga tao katong mga dili kabalo mosulat. Like bisan todo pinireso sila, they have right to learn. So kaning okasyon na sab nila na makabalo or makakaton pagsulat ang gama nga mga artistic materials. So the prisoners pass the time with playing basketball, volleyball, billiards, chess, for enjoyment. They also given regular tasks every day like cooking, cleaning, gardening, and etc. So, ang mga prisoners, if na sila pastime sa ilahang pagtrabaho sa farm or asa pa na diha, they are giving chance nga to play and enjoy their life. So, magtula ba sila basketball, volleyball, and even though billiards, kanang na sila yung mga any activity, sports nga malingaw po sila even though na sila sa prisuhan. So now let's move to the Iwahig Penal Colony. What is Iwahig Penal Colony? So this facility was established during the American occupation. It was however during the Spanish regime that Puerto Princesa was designed as a place where offenders sentenced and banishment were exiled. So a specific area of Puerto Princesa was selected as the site of correctional facility. So, ang muna siya specific area, ang Puerto Princesa, i-select ni siya sa site para sa mga correctional facility. Mga, the institution had for first its superintendent, Lieutenant George Wolf, and a member of the U.S. Expeditionary Force, who later became the first prisons director. Governor Luke Wright authorized the establishment of penal colony in the province of Palawan on November 16, 1904. The penal settlement of the was originally served as depository for prisoners who served who could not be accommodated at the Bilibid prison in Manila. So, yeah. So this was the Iwahig prison and the penal farm. So as we can see here, na jeep nga nagdala og mga goods, mga produkto gikan sa farm, no kanilang ipangpasan, nananom sila palay, nang harvest ba na sila. That so the settlement was the first beset by attempted escapes, but under the supervision of Colonel John R. White of the Philippine Constabulary, who would become superintendent of Iwahig, the colony became successful settlement. So, before wala pa nabot si John White, si Colonel John White, dagan kayong mga attempted mga escapes prisoners. So by the time na nabot na siya, na less na siya kay basig ang the way sa siya nga modala sa or pag-supervise sa usa ka fasilidad basig stricto kayo, and then it became successful. So a merit system. What is a merit system? So this was the device for the prisoners and vocational activities were offended. This included farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and hospital paramedical work. Prisoners could choose the vocational activities they wanted. So the merit system is that any activities sa mga gi-offered sa mga offenders. So like farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and hospital paramedical work. So na nila ang choice if unsa ilahang ganahan ani inside sa prisuhan. So if naata ani na butang, so there's a tendency na ang mga prisoners inside the prison malipay pud sila nga inaning klaseng activity dili lang kay siging katanga sa sulod sa prison, but they do any activities na malingaw sab sila. So a merit system was devised for the prisons. Yeah, mana na ni siya. So the order also contained list of qualifications for colonists who wish to apply for a lot of cultivate. The conditions for the settlers stay in this land, loan requirements or marketing of the settlers produced lots granted did not exceed 6 hectares. So prisoners in Iwahig were divided into two groups, the settlers and the colonists. So the settlers are those engaged in farming for their own benefit. So muna siya gitawag og settler. So nag-engage sila to do farm para sa ilang kaugalingon nga benepisyo. So they are the ones who were applications for plan to cultivate their have been approved. The government furnishes the land and initial requirement for tools, dwelling the beast of burden. They are required to reimburse expenditures incurred, their maintenance and their families' outer products of their farms. So upon their release from their colony, they receive whatever amount of money. So they have credited in the favor after deducting the obligations they have. Wahig is subdivided into four zones of districts. So these are the four zones districts, which is Central Subcolony with a land area of 14,700 hectares and Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares. Second is that the Santa Lucia with the hectares of 9,685 and Montebel with 8,000 hectares and Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. So, the recent developments and presidential proclamations have dramatically reduced the size of prison reservation of Iwahig. So now, let's move on to the Correctional Institution for Women or the CIW. So, the Correctional Institution for Women is in Mandaluyong City where they conducted a Bible study with some of the inmates there every Saturday. So, the correctional facility for women is that nag-conduct sila og Bible study for them na para sa na sila pag correction nga if unsay lang mga buhat nga or mga mistaken na butang. So, ila sab na mo na nga na sila time sa Ginoo to correct the wrongs. So, over last of 18 years, we should have held numerous medical and optical missions for the inmates of CIW. We have Bible study group of 100 women who regularly attend. So, dagan kayong mga convicted women na ni tambong sa usa ka Bible study. So naabot ni siya og 100 women who regularly nag-attend. So napanaylain nga ni-attend but not niaing ni-attend but irregularly. So we have also brought in clothing under supply trees as well as hosting Christmas celebration for the women. So na sila gina-offer dahil sulod sa prison for the women. So pwede sila manahi and napod sila Christmas celebration. So recently, we have been promoting the sales of handicrafts which are made inside the prison as a way to help the inmates much needed funds for medical and other expenses. So here are my documentary sa CIW. So CIW in Women's Prison located in Mandaluyong, Metro Manila, Philippines. The prison is operated by the Bureau of Corrections. The prison first opened in 18-hectare property on February 14, 1931. So, muna siya ang CIW. So, in the right side, makita nato nga nanahi sila. And then sa left side, we conduct a Bible study. So, in report dated on January 22, 1959, submitted to a committee created by Administrative Order Number 287 by the President of the Philippines, it was noted that before the separate building was constructed, especially for women's prisoners, all female convicts who were confined at Old Bilibid Prison on as Caraga Street, Manila. So, muna siya gitawag nga Before a separate building was constructed, uh, all female convicts gi-confine ni siya sa Old Bilibid Prison. So dito day tanan ang mga prisoners before siya gi-separate. So the male prisoners were confined in dormitories near the women's quarters. Because of these conditions, vocational activities of the women prisoners were limited to embroidery. So tungod ani nag-embroidery manahitahi na sila, so limitado ra jud ang ilahang time o ang ilahang guard. So when they become ill, the women were confined in a separate building which served as hospital with nurses and prison physicians. So if na sila yung mga sakit, kaning the women confined ni sila sa laing building, na separate building na dito ang mga nurses or nag-serve ni siya og hospital for the nurses na physician para i-confine dito para if naabay gipamati nga sakit ang usa ka tawo or sa ka babaye, dito ang center para maayo ang tawo. So when women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated at the Bilibid prison. So bisan to dog na surgery, nara day inside sa prison, nara surgery area dito or a center sa surgery para ana. So after the operation, they were transferred to the infirmary for convalescence. Prison authorities were aware of the conditions that women prisoners had to endure. Consequently, the transfer of the women to separate site became inevitable. So, after a series of negotiations started by Prison Director Ramon Victorio, the Philippine Register passed Republic Act numbers 3579 in November 1929. It is authorized the transfer of all women inmates to a building in Welfareville. So, all authorized women inmates is ila silang i-transfer sa Welfareville at the Mandaluyong Rizal. So, ito ra may mga authority ha. So, ang mga tanang mga babae na authority na balhin sa Mandaluyong Rizal. So, ang na-move dito ng mga um, convicted women is 60,000 for the move. 60,000 pesos. For usa ka tawo or usa ka babae, mubayad sila og 60,000 para sa pag-move. Yeah. So, on February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the old Bilibid prison to the building specially constructed for them. Its old name Women's Prison was changed to Correctional Institution for Women. So before, it was being called a woman's prison. But karon or as time pass go by, gilisdan na siya og correctional institution for the woman. So this was in keeping in the emerging trends of penology which emphasizes correctional rather than punishment. Convicts were brought back into social mainstream, adjusted and rehabilitated with a better outlook in life. So CIW, according to the Senate report, occupied 18 hectares. The original structure was one-story building which housed the office of brigades, mess hall, kitchen, chapel, infirmary, bathrooms, and employees' restrooms. So, dako din ang CIW or the Correctional Institute for Women. Nag-occupy siya og 18 hectares, so baling dakuan ni siya nga land area. So ang structure nga gibuhat dito or mga buildings nga ilang ipang-build is nag-house siya og opisina, mga brigades, mess hall, kusina, kapilya, infirmary, mga paliguan, bathrooms, or mga employees restrooms. So every rooms nay kaugalingon nga purpose. So yeah, dako good siya which is ato pa lang daw una-una 18 hectare was so very dako na siya nga pagka land area. So the building has a central courtyard with trees and flowering plants. So, ang building matupod siyang ah, ah, describe nga daghan ni siya nga kahoy, mga tanom, bulak. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery as well as cultivation of crops, flowers, and fruits. So, ang mga prisoners, napod sila kanang vocational activity inside sa prisoner o inside the prison rather. So, pwede sila magbuhat o mga poultry, mag-ihaw ba silang baboy, mag-alagag mga baboy, magpakaog mga baboy, magpatuktok og mga manok, like that, any vocational activities lang gyud. Pwede po sila mag-cultivate og crops, mga flowers, mamubo ba silang tanom, ah, ila bang butangan og abono ang mga tanom, manilhig like that, maintenance inside the prison. Ano siya, one. So, living quarters for the institute's employees were later constructed in the compound during the Japanese occupation. The CIW, despite a drastic reduction in the number of its employees, continued with its work. A number of female military prisoners were also confined by the institution. They were later freed by the U.S. Army. After the war, the CIW resumed its normal operations. Weekly catechism classes were introduced. A dental clinic was built. Local telephones were installed in the guards' quarters. The Bureau of Public Works made major repairs in the main buildings and workshop, and infirmary were constructed for the inmates' use. The infirmary during the time could accommodate around 16 patients. So, in 2020, a new four-story building was constructed by the Department of Public Works within the grounds of CIW. It is the grounding congestion of the facility. The CIW, with a capacity of for only 200 inmates, had accommodate 1,000 inmates. So, gipalapdan siya. It was being si tawag nga term na renovated. So, gi-renovate siya. So, before, naka-accommodate siya og 200 inmates, but now, nakalabot na jud siya 1,000 inmates. So, na siya, dugang-dugang na siya, tungod sa i-construct siya, og lain nga, ugaman siya, og lain nga facility for that. So now let's move on to the Davao Penal Colony. So the Davao Penal Colony in the first penal settlement founded and organized under Filipino administration. The settlement, which originally had an area of approximately 30,000 hectares in his districts of Panabo and Tagum. Davao del Norte was formally established on January 21, 1932 with a virtue of Act number 3732. This act authorized the Governor-General to lease or sell the lands, buildings, improvements in San Ramon Prison and Iwahig Penal Colony. So, during the World War II, the colony was converted into the concentration camp where more than 1,000 Japanese internees were committed to Philippine-American armed forces. The Japanese were treated in accordance with the orders of American commanding officer. So, muna siya ang picture. So, no, dagan kayong mga saging. Nagtanong sa silag mga saging. Oh. So, on December 20, 1941, the Japanese imperial forces attacked Davao and the colony were among the establishments taken over the invading army. The entire settlement was thrown into confusion and a great number of prisoners escaped. Normal operations were inevitably disturbed. So after the liberation of Philippines, the colony in exile in Palawan returned on site of Davao. A great deal of rebuilding and repair had to be done because the war had almost completely destroyed the colony. So after the liberation of the Philippines, the Palawan, the colony in exile in Palawan returned to exile. Ang usa ka tungod atong pagbombahanay na ay mga invading gitawag na atoy na ay mga invading army like that, ilang so what we call this, ilang gi-repair ang usa ka place or usa ka facility since nangaguba man siya tungod sa mga invading army, tungod sa pagtuo ng mga bomba, so nangabungkag ang mga houses that, so ilan ni siyang gina-repair. So mga gi-mention diri nga it was almost completely destroyed by the colony. Yeah. So let's move on to the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. So this were the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. So this is the central prison. Wait. So nearer to Manila than other penal colonies, the Sablayan Penal Colony is located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. So, na-establish niya siya on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation number 72. So, the penal colony had total an area of approximately 16,190. So, the Leyte Regional Prison. So, this is the Leyte Regional Prison. So, as we can see, na siya activity for the prisoners na saan siya nagsayaw ba ni, and then ang mga tao dito, ang mga prisoners is that naglantaw, so they encourage dance para maka-exercise. So the Leyte Regional Prison situated in Abuyog, Southern Leyte was established a year after the declaration of martial law in 1972 by virtue of Presidential Decree number 28. While its political and institutional plan were almost ideal, lack of funds made the prison unable to realize its full potential, and its facilities are often below par compared with those of other established penal farms. So this was the Leyte Regional Prison. So this was being created on January 16, 1973 under the proclamation number of 1101. So muna siya, it was being found in Leyte. So the LRP has an inmate capacity of 500. So gamay ra siya. So nadirig explain na ang Leyte Regional Prison is that naghold ra siya og 500 inmates. So it follows the same agricultural format in the main correctional programs in addition to some rehabilitation activities. So nagyapon sila, nagsunod yapon sila lain nga prisuhan nga nagyapon mga activities like correctional programs like mga activities or agricultural activities, that vocational activities. The prison commits convicted offenders from Regional 6 and from the National Penitentiary in Muntinlupa. So, thank you. That was the end of my presentation. So, I hope that you learned something about me. So, I'm sorry if I speak to you, ma'am, na medyo Bisaya, but I try to speak English for us, for me to really understand what I kanang akong na explain, and for me to learn how to speak in English. That end of my presentation. Thank you and God bless you.